What's going on, Wolfpack? Time for another wolfofbricks.com update. I am Jim, and of course, this is where we talk about Lego investing and reselling. So before we get into the main topic, as always, we have to talk about something else first. So right now, you're looking at the 2-year chart for Bitcoin. Now, I recently did a video where at the end, I talked about the 2-year chart, and that was a couple days before the whole FTX thing blew up. And if you don't know what FTX is, you should probably take a look at it. So I get a lot of mixed comments in the comments section when I talk about crypto. Crypto, for some people, can be a very passionate thing, and if that's what they like, then go for it. It doesn't matter to me. But for me, it's a pretty basic thing, right? You know, there are a lot of people that don't like my comments about Bitcoin in general, which I don't understand why, because I think it's a pretty even kill opinion. But for the people that, you know, don't agree with me, you know, my question to you is, you know, where were you prior to 2016? Were you in the Bitcoin camp, or were you just not paying attention to it and you didn't understand the value like I did, and then you started to form these opinions? So now we're going to go to the 5-year chart of Bitcoin, okay? And you could see it, I don't want to use the word crash, but it certainly was not off to the races. From here to here, it has performed quite poorly. Now, my question to you is, do you believe that Bitcoin has not performed well and it has performed poorly because of everyday people that might have purchased Bitcoin like you and me? Or do you believe it has not performed well because of big institutions, right? Well, I'm going to be in the latter camp and say big institutions. So this right here is the owner of FTX. Fortune called him the next Warren Buffett. Jim Cramer called him the next JP Morgan. Jim Cramer also said that former CEO of Theranos was the next Stephen Jobs. So if there's anybody that needs to be in jail, it's Jim Cramer. And this right here is the number 2 person. Now let me ask you a question, and I understand you should never judge a book by its cover, but if you had $10 billion, which is what FTX had, would you let this person here and this person here manage your $10 billion? I mean, and here's the thing about it. Steph Curry right here, there are so many people that are caught in this. You have Steph Curry, you have Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, you have so many other people. And then you have Tom Brady right here. Rumor has it he has lost around $500 million in FTX. Now, this is him right here, Tom Brady and his wife, doing a commercial about FTX. Now, Tom Brady is calling all of his friends, and they're going to call all of their friends to get into FTX. If that's not a Ponzi scheme, I don't know what is. So when we're talking about being a contrarian, when you see everybody go to the Ecto ones and you see everybody go to the DeLoreans, you may say to yourself, do you really want to go there? When everybody is hoarding speed champions, which is a great theme, do you really want to put money in speed champions and have those sets be on the shelf an extra year or so? My answer is no. So going back to Bitcoin real quick, you know, I was a fan of Bitcoin. I bought Bitcoin whenever it was $70. I bought Litecoin whenever it was 45 cents. So whenever you have freedom, which is Bitcoin, and what I mean by that is there was a time when you were in China and you could mine Bitcoin on your laptop, and then you could open up a WordPress account and you could pay for WordPress via Bitcoin, and then you could, in a sense, have free speech because you could have your voice heard around the world. That's what freedom is. Being locked in with institutional banks that want, you know, electronic currencies and control, in my opinion, is not freedom. So if you haven't bought into FTX, like I'm pretty sure none of you watching this have, I would like to congratulate you, because you may not have won 5 Super Bowls, but you're definitely smarter than Tom Brady. All right, let's get into the main topic. 3 steps that I highly encourage everybody to take in 2023. That way, you could be a Lego reselling and investing mastermind, which is something that we all want, right? So number 1, build a network. Well, Jim, I've heard you say build a network before. I got it. Why are you telling me this? Well, here's the thing. We're going to take a little bit of a dive into what building a network looks like, right? If you don't have a network, I highly recommend that you seek out a very knowledgeable Lego reseller, maybe even 2 tops. You want to have maybe 5 people in your network, and you want to have 2 that are kind of big fish, right? So they could not necessarily act to you as a mentor because you don't want to waste their time, right? you want there to be an even exchange of information. But if you have a good relationship with that person, they should be able to guide you a little bit, and you will be able to help them in some degree, right? So you need to have about 2 big fish, people with a lot of experience and a lot of inventory to guide you on that way. Also having somebody that is very junior in your network. Now, if you're a very junior person, I highly encourage you to have someone just like you, a very junior person. And the reason why I say that is because everybody starting out in Lego is different. I've had people where they've sat on the sideline for over 18 months and, they've said, well, I finally bought my first Lego set for resale. I'm like, it's about time. And then, I'm not joking, then there are new Lego resellers out there and they're like, Jim, I just bought $200,000 in these Lego sets and this is why I did it, and there's reasons A, B, C, and D, and yada, yada, yada. And when I'm listening to them, I'm saying to myself, wow, you're a genius. Like, I didn't even think of that, right? So there's a lot of energy when it comes to resellers, but if I had to measure it, when it comes to new Lego resellers, they're probably a little bit more high energy, right? But Jim, I already have a network. What should I do? Okay, well, I'm going to be honest with you. Just as a good exercise, I would drop off your weakest link. Okay, I don't think I really have any weak links for any reseller I talk to, whether it's a Patreon member or, somebody that I've known for years over time, right? But in the past, there have been some weak links. There's been a lot of weak links, right? There was this time where I knew one reseller and, I didn't even know why I talked to them, right? And they were vampires, informational vampires. And so it came to a point where I just dumped them, right? And then I met another reseller. I was like, okay, this person's a little bit better. Then over the course of, 9 to 12 months, they became a vampire. And I'm like, ugh. So I think I'm at the place where I have a good, well-balanced network. So if you already have a network, I'm serious, man. You may want to trim the fat and get rid of 1 or 2. And if you have more than 5, there's a difference between having an acquaintance where you just shoot the stuff with, right? And then somebody where you share a little bit more intimate details. But that's what I believe a good composure of a network is. You don't want it to be too big and too diluted. You want it to be just right. Storage solutions. I recently did a video on storage solutions, right? I highly encourage you, to develop some plan, maybe not now because you're busy in Q4, but you need to start turning the gears in your head and you need to figure out what's going on. And there are growing pains, right? Sometimes there's people, and I talk to them often, where there are a ton of Lego sets in their house and they have to, make that step to a storage unit. And I know, a few people that have 5 or 6 storage units, and it's time to bite the bullet and level up and go to a warehouse, right? So you need to figure out your storage a little bit better, even if you're pretty good at it, right? And this might also include, tracking your inventory better, right? Because you don't want to have sets that just retired in front of a bunch of other sets that are ready to go on Amazon. You need to write out a plan. It doesn't have to be a long one, maybe a couple bullet points. And you need to focus on that at the beginning of January once the dust clears and execute it. And you will see come August, September of next year, things will be even better for you. The next one is deep dives, right? I mean, you really need to go down the rabbit hole. I have people that say, Jim, how do you pick a winner? And I tell them, I try and be as creative as possible, right? And I've recently mentioned this in the past, but I'm going to mention it again. TIE fighters are somewhat popular, right? And I said to myself, well, maybe there's something special when it comes to the ROI about red and black TIE fighters, right? And there were. And I was like, okay, that, helped me out for my decision-making buying. I noticed that there were pizza sets in a lot of different themes. Duplo, Friends, City, stuff like that. And I said, let me dive into the pizza sets. Let me dive into the tree houses, right? So, that is a part of doing due diligence, is thinking outside the box and going on those deep dives. So I challenge all of you, if this is not something that you periodically do, is to do this next year. And you don't have to, do it every week. But if you're able to do a deep dive where you spend between 1 and 5 hours, maybe somewhere in the middle, around 2 to 3, once a month for 12 months, you will be a much sharper Lego reseller than you were the first month when you started doing these deep dives. And if you've stuck with me this long during the video, I am going to give you a bonus one. You want to connect with merchants, right? And, you know, I tell people connecting like with merchants to, you know, potentially get wholesale prices is kind of like whenever you're trying to sell a car. For every 10 people that you talk to, you know, 5 of them will just walk out there. They'll say they're not interested. 5 of them will, you know, take it out for a test drive. 2 to 3 of them, you'll be able to get into a credit application after the test drive. And then maybe only 1 will purchase out of the 10. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of, I don't want to say cold calls because you want to talk to these people in person. That's the first thing you should do. If you have to do it by phone, then you could do it by phone. But you have to be prepared for rejection. You have to bake that into the process so when it happens, you won't be discouraged. You're just going to go down the list to the next name, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to keep on doing it until you get that merchant that's willing to do business with you. That's it, my friends. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Once again, I'm Jim with wolfofbricks.com. Always go out there and get it.